and thanks for joining me in Grace's Fall Festival. My name is Janet George, and I've been a Grace Ambassador for several years and using QCT for coming up on 7.5 wonderful years. I'm a total addict. Today, I'm going to show you how to place and quilt borders and corners using Plus and then the quilt area in between. I'm going to first, before loading, mark the margins that I'll need to place correctly. So from this raw edge is 1/2 inch, and I'm literally just drawing a line. This is a blue marker that will come out with water. I'm doing a 1/4 inch from this seam, so my border pattern will fit between here. And then I'm doing a 1/4 inch from this seam because I don't want to stitch right to that seam line. And then I'll be able to take that out. One thing that you must do before you load your quilt top is take some measurements. You probably need to take several measurements. You want the average if they're not all the same. And what you're doing is you're going to measure from seam to seam, and then whatever allowance you're using for the margin that you're going to stitch to. In this case, we set 1/4 inch on either side. So I'm going to take this measurement and take 1/2 inch away. And I'm going to do the same thing with this and do it in several different places. And then if you need to take an average, do. And what I like to do is just draw a little picture. So I know that in between the margins, I have 37.4, so that will be my total width, and 39.25 is my height, which you won't be able to enter that with Plus, but you'll need that measurement in order to figure out the best pattern height. So the quilt is now loaded, and when you are using Plus, you need to do as good a job as you can to load this straight. If you have to force it straight with pins, do it. And if you have channel locks, use them. Because you don't have the cool tools that the gold borders and corners does to follow along with how wavy your border is. It's on you to load as straight as you can. So that's what I have done. And I had basted down my batting and then lined my quilt top up with that line and then basted my quilt top down. So I feel really good about how straight this top border is. Now we're ready to get started. I need to get into QCT6 Plus. I'm going to tap Try Other Product Tiers, tap on Plus. So now we're ready to go. To stitch the corners, we'll be using Select and Sew. So I tap on that. And I have to choose a pattern. So this is the corner pattern I want. It is the astronaut corner. You'll need to have 1 point corner selected, and to do that you can tap on All, 1 point, and then Corner. The next thing I need to do is to draw lines reflecting those blue lines that I made onto the screen so that I will know when I place stuff where it's going to stitch without having to do a lot of tracing. I'm going to tap on Plugins and Marking Tool. I automatically have one. I've got my needle directly over the line, and I want to go down far enough to catch this little astronaut, but I don't have to go way down. So it is on Add. And you want to be very accurate with where you do your corner. And I'm feeling very confident that this is really straight, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of marks. Again, for this corner, I want to be very accurate. Okay, now I'm going to say Add Marking and number 2, Enter. And I'll be tracking along this blue line, which was 1/4 inch from the seam. I want to be very accurate with this corner. And I feel pretty confident about this, so I don't feel like I need to make a whole lot of marks. And again, I want to be very accurate with this corner. Okay, so now that we have our lines drawn, we're able to place our corner and see how well it's going to fit, because we're probably going to need to adjust its size. So I'm going to get my needle back over that top left corner there, and I'm going to tap on that gray node. And then you can see the little astronaut feet are sticking underneath that brown line, meaning they would stitch into that margin there, and we don't want that. I'm going to tap on placements because we're still in marking tool, so I'm tapping on placements. And the lock is locked, so it doesn't matter if I tap on these icons or those. And I'm going to reduce them in size because that one is too tall. So as I've started reducing, you can see that the node is now gray again. But because I'm not touching my machine, I can still just tap right there. I don't want to tap too hard that I jar my machine. And I need to save it. So I'm going to save it. Astro corner. So I'm going to say save. Do you wish to override it? Yes. But bottom line, you would navigate to where you want your pattern saved, that you'll know where to go back to and find it. So at this point, I'm happy with the way it's looking, and I have it saved, and I'm going to tap on Quilt. I want to go into settings. My tie-off count I have reduced down, and here's the reason why. When this pattern stitches, it's going to end, I can move it now. The ending stitch of the corner will be right there, and it's going to end with 2 little micro stitches. Well, when I get ready to do the connecting border, it'll do 2 little more stitches again, which means that's 4 little stitches. I don't want any more than that. So you may even want less than that. You may want to just tie your thread tails and bury them, which I will tie my thread. I will be burying my thread tails, but that's just something to think about. That this number is going to double when you add it together with the border. So we're going to say okay, and now I think we are ready to stitch. I'm going to tap on pull bobbin, and I'm going to hold my thread. I'm going to hold not super tight, but just a little snug. Because when I tap pull bobbin, it's going to move to where that green circle is and immediately take a stitch. So in order to have a nice firm thread path starting out, that's why I'm holding it. So now I'm just going to hold my thread like this and pull it under, and that has caused my bobbin thread to pull up. It made a loop, and I'm pulling that out straight. And the machine has come out of lock position, so don't let that scare you. As soon as I tap on sew, it's going to reposition itself where it needs to be and start exactly where I pull the bobbin. It's going to take the micro stitches, and now it's going to stitch the little men. And then we'll be back when we finished. The quilting has finished, and I need to get my needle directly over where the stitching ended so I can pull the bobbin. I'm just going to tap that little thing up there, and the end that I'm going to cut, this is the one that pulls tight, so that's connecting to the stitching. I want thread tail, so the one that pulls freely, which is pulling from the bobbin, that's the one I'm going to clip. So now we need to do the other corner. So we'll say finished, back to pattern placement. And I'm going to move my machine over here. And we need to rotate that green node so that it's in the top right. So I'm going to tap on 45 twice. 1, 2. So now it's in that top right corner. And I'm going to put my needle over this corner. And it should be the right size. We'll tap to place it. So we'll say quilt. And then I'll do exactly what I did to quilt the other one. And we'll be back when it's finished. Both corner patterns have now been stitched, and the thread tails from where I began and pull the bobbin have now been buried. I used the self-threading needle to do that, so I keep that handy. And now we need to do the pantograph that's going to connect our 2 corners. So we're going to go into pantograph, and we will go ahead and get our total width and total height. So I'm going to tap on the yellow ruler, and I want to measure from where the stitching ended, from the top left corner, and you want to be really accurate. If you've got a needle jog, this is a great time to use it, and the reason is because if you can jog your needle exactly down, perfect, then your machine isn't going to move any on you. You just got to remember to tap it back up before you move it again. And now we're going to go down to the other stitch. This was where this stitching began for the top right. And again, I'm going to try and get my needle as close as I can. And I'm going to jog it down. That looks good. And I'm going to tap there and get my needle back up. And I'm going to apply measurement. So I tap there. So that 30 is now there. We need our height. We're going to go back into that ruler and just select the ruler by itself. And holding my my machine just as steady as I can, starting with that blue line right there. I'm going to tap there, and then gently and just pulling it exactly straight down. I'm getting my needle over that blue line and tap there, 3.823. So I'm just going to say the height is 3.8. Now we need to get our pattern, and it's the little astronaut open. And this looks terrible, so we need to come down here to this last bottom row of hearts. And we see one little guy. We need to know how many. So I'm going to start tapping on the plus of the patterns, and when I have enough that they're about to join, then that's the number I'm going to go with. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're getting close. 8. I like this. They're almost joining. So now I'm going to tap on the top row, and I want that very first selection. So we have the top row, top choice. I like this. I need to save it. So I'm going to tap up there to save it. Enter. Save. So now we've got him saved. In order to stitch it out, we are going to place as a single pattern. Anytime you choose that, that means whatever you've got here will fit between your top rails. So place as a single pattern. And we need 2-point stretch. I'm going to tap on all, 2-point, and come down here and tap stretch. So now I'm going to move my needle over this ending stitch here. And again, this is another great time to use the needle jog if you have it. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to tap there. And because my needle is holding me in place, I don't have to worry that I've shifted. And we'll come down to the other beginning stitch of the top right corner. And again, I want to be super accurate. And I'll jog my needle down. Yep, I'm a little off. Spot on. And I will tap the ending node because it's got the red on it. So now I need to get my needle back up. And I'm going to come over here. If I want to see how good a job I did, I can tap on this line up here and blow it up and just look. Did I do a good job staying within my lines? We're not looking at much deviation. Tap on fit. We're back in our screen and we're ready to tap on quilt. And I will tap pull bobbin and then sew, and then we'll be back ready to stitch the inner part. All right, the corners are stitched and the connecting, and I'm really happy with how it looks. I've now advanced my quilt, and I have basted up the sides. One thing that I did, because I do have the channel locks, is I put my needle over this line, and then I engaged that channel lock that's going to keep it straight, and then I brought it down, and then I manipulated my fabric so that my needle would still be over that line, and then I've been using my So-Tight magnets to hold this in place, and I just clamped it right there where it needed to be, and I did the same thing on the other side. So I'm trying to keep this line as straight as I can. I'm going to get you out of your comfort zone right now, and I want you to tap on Try Other Product Tiers and select Pro. Hit Start. Now we're in Pro, pantograph, and the reason is because we want to be able to enter a total height. Pro has panto mode. You're used to seeing row height go all the way across, but you want to be in basic mode. It's the one that the screen looks much like yours. The difference being you can enter more rows and a total height. So we're going to go ahead and select our pattern. And now we need to enter our width and our height. So that was what I had measured before ever loading this quilt top, and I wrote it down. So the total width, I'm going to tap there, is 37.4, and the total height is 39.25. The reason we're doing this is we need to know how can we get equal sized pattern heights so that we don't get to the bottom and have to do a row that's half the pattern height or be a cut-off row. We want equal sized rows all the way down. So this is our way of letting QCT do the math for us, and that's a good thing. So now we have to say what kind of pattern height do we think we would like, and you know, it could be 7, 7.5, 8, I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and say 8. Okay, and now I'm going to tap on that bottom row of hearts because we need to know how many across. So I think 3 is going to be fine. So we'll tap on the hearts up here and get to that top choice. And now we need to know how many rows. So I'm going to start tapping on the row number, and we're going to watch until the pattern height gets somewhere around 8. It's going to be changing it. So row 2, row 3, and you can see it's still big pattern heights. Row 4. Now we're to 9.8, 5, 7.85. Now that we know what pattern height gives us equal rows all the way down, write down these numbers. Take a picture, write them down. But what's critical is that it's 7.85 and 3 patterns across. So those are the 2 numbers we need, 3 patterns and 7.85. We're going to go back home and we're going to say no because you're in demo mode. You can't. I'm going to go back into plus, tap pantograph. I need to enter that total width, which was 37.4, which was, again, the measurement between my lines that I drew. Okay. And now the total height. I'm going to go into my calculator and toolbox and say 7.85 times 2, and it's 15.7. So I'm going to give myself a height of 15.7. And I know that with my 21 inch, I'm able to do 2 rows. So I'm going to select my pattern. And we know that we wanted 7.85 for a pattern height, and that we needed 3 rows across. And I'm going to go ahead and increase to 2 rows because that's what the 15.7 is, 7.85 twice. So now I know that I'm going to be able to do this all the way down. So now we need to save it, enter, save, okay? And now we're going to say sew in zones, and I'm going to say yes, between borders, enter, save. And there's something we need to do. We need to go into plugins and marking tool because we need to get rid of those. So we are going to actually say remove all here. Remove all, yes. And now we've removed them and we're down to 1. Here's what we need to do. We need to track the needle along this blue line here. So I'm coming pretty far down and I'm going to say add. Okay. So now we've got that reflected, and we're going to go into Zone Manager at this point. Right now, everything's shifted to the top left corner, and this is a toggle between 4-point and center, and we want 4-point placement. This next one is grayed out. This next one is sewing direction. When I choose that first choice, every row is going to start on the left, so there'll be a jump stitch. And then the next one is you would stitch across, it would do a jump stitch down and stitch back. I've quit using that one. I think it just seems to line up better every row starting on the left. You don't want to use that third one because you'll get a straight line stitch down, and you don't want that on the inner part of your quilt. So I'm going to go with that first one and say okay. And because I made some changes there, it's saying that same question, do I want to save? I'm going to say yes, and I'm just going to tap on where I saved it earlier and say save, overwrite, yes, because it's saving the changes I made in Zone Manager. Okay, now we need to place A. So I'm going to come up here and get over that same dot that I did earlier, and I'm going to tap on A, and it's saying make sure you have a mark there. Okay. Now I'm going to go over here to B, and I don't want that lock width checked. So don't let that lock width be checked, because this lets me place B wherever I want it. And I want it placed in this top right corner. So again, be very picky and careful where your needle is over. And now I'm looking at how does it fit with the line, the marking tool line. Well, this looks great over here. I'm totally happy with that. But look over here. That's not so great. Leave that lock height checked. Do not change that at all. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here, and you can put your needle anywhere. You're not having to put it at any exact spot, and just tap on C. And look, I'm happy. It's going to totally conform to that side edge, even though it was out a little bit. I tried to adjust as best I could, but I couldn't get it exact. And now it's going to stitch great. So I'm happy with this. So I'm ready to put my needle near where that green circle is and pull my bobbin and hit sew. We'll be back when this is finished. The first zone has finished stitching, so I need to mark the zone. I'm going to have it take a single stitch. And then instead of saying continue, I need to hit previous mark, because I've got to get the mark that goes on the other side. So I'm going to tap that. It's going to start moving. I'm going to mark my spot, and we'll get that marked, and then I'll finish till we get to the bottom. I finished the last zone, and now I only need to do one more row. So I've come back to the panto screen. I'm going to change it to one row, and I need to change the total height to 7.85. And that pattern height needs to stay 7.85. Now I'm ready to sew in zones and finish up. In placing my last zone, I've placed A and B like normal. I went into my plugins and I redrew my marking tool line. And now for C and D, I need to unlock that lock height so that I can place them exactly in the corners where I need them to be. So now you can see that it's going to stitch nicely above my blue line. I've opened up Select and Sew to open up the corner blocks where I had saved it at the top. I went into Plugins and Marking Tool and created the lines that match these blue lines with a 1/4 inch in and a 1/2 inch in there. So I'll be able to tell how well I'm placing my block. I need to rotate it so that the gray node will fit in that bottom left corner. So I tapped on reverse there so that the blue arrows would be pointing the other way, and I tap it twice. Now it's in the bottom left corner. And then I put my needle over that dot there and tap there, and it looks good. So it's ready to stitch. And then I also need to stitch it over in the other corner before I can connect it with the border pattern. So to do that, I'll just rotate it 2 more times with the 45. Put my needle over this intersecting dot down there, tap that node, and I'm ready to quilt it. So we'll be back after these 2 corner blocks have been quilted. Okay, so the bottom corners have quilted. We need to go back into pantograph now, and we need to open the border pattern that we saved from up at the top, open. We're opening it as a pantograph, and immediately we know we need to flip it vertically. So you tap on flip to get your flip choices. We're going to turn them upside down. But if you look at the hands, we need to flip the hands. So we also need to flip it horizontally. So now we can see that this little man matches up there, and same with this one. It's oriented the same. We'll be placing as a single pattern, and we will tap on all and select 2-point stretch. Now I need to put my needle over this ending stitch right here and be as exact as I can. Tap that gray node, and now I need to come down here and tap that gray node, and now I'm ready to quilt. I'm ready to do the side borders now, so I've rotated the quilt on the rails, and we're going to tap on pantograph and select pattern and the border from the top. We're going to open it as a pantograph, and now we need to remeasure. So I'm going to tap on the yellow ruler. I'm going to get my needle over the end stitch right here, being very, very precise, and tap there, and we'll come down here, and we'll get to the beginning stitch or ending stitch. I don't know which one, but be very precise with it. And tap there, and now we've got 31 point, you might say 9. Apply measurement. Okay, so we've got the 31.855. I'm going to tap on reset, which is going to take it back to 1, and I'm going to tap on those bottom hearts again and start adding my patterns. When we were doing the border across the top, we had 8. So let's see how many it takes for down the side, which is just a little bit longer. So we're going to need 9 down the sides instead of the 8 that we used across the top. I'm going to immediately save it. Do I wish to overwrite? Yes, because I don't need the top and bottom anymore. That's done. Now I'm going to place it as a single pattern. And I had already used the marking tool to reflect my blue drawn lines. So that's 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. So we're going to change it to 2-point stretch. Now again, I'm going to put my needle very carefully over this point. Tap that gray node, it turns green. Tap that node, it turns green. So now we're ready to tap on quilt, pull bobbin and sew, and then after this is done, then I'll rotate the quilt on the rails again to do the other side, and then we'll show you the finished quilt. The quilt has now been finished and binding has been added, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Is it perfect? No. But I'm happy because you erased the blue lines that were drawn, and it looks fine. It looks just fine. And the quilt was super easy to put together with fat quarters. So this made a great quilt to learn how to do this on, to learn how to quilt between the borders and do the borders and corners. And I have a PDF written that tells all the instructions on just how I made the quilt top and how I used QCT to quilt it, plus a few more tips. So if you're watching this live right now, then ask in the comments for the link, and a Grace employee will direct you where you can get that PDF. Or if you're watching this after this festival has ended, then you can go to the Grace website, Fall Festival, and you will find where the PDF is so that you can download it. So enjoy the rest of the festival, and happy fall, y'all.